Sometimes it's about more than manifesting. You got to do the work. What's going on? What's going on? I want to welcome everybody to the Keep It Up Listen podcast. We want to take care of some housekeeping right now. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review. We only accept 4 or 5 stars. If you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. You want to really support the podcast and be one of a kind, just be kind and cop the merch. For everybody listening, this episode, we're going to talk about breaking habits. I think it's very important. We're coming into a season where people are going to get a little heavy, may want to lose some weight, or we're getting to the end of the year. It's the fourth quarter. You may want to make that change going into the new year. So I have with me today, of course, the man behind the camera. Talk to the people.
What's good, folks, man? Thanks for joining us once again, man. You know what I mean? We can help you break our habits, break your habits, and break a couple bad habits I have today. So we're going to do it all.
And also, we have my man, Will. Talk to the people, man. Special guest. Appreciate you coming back, man.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on. To all the listeners, appreciate y'all listening. Keep listening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, I was looking at something earlier, and it was talking about like the 3 R's of breaking habits, and it was like reminder, recourse, and something else. I'm really messing this up, but I was thinking about fear, right? We talked about fear on the last podcast.
Yes.
And I feel like fear is a habit that people need to break.
Okay.
So I wanted to talk about like breaking, how do we break habits? Because something triggers fear, right? Like when you get up to, brush your teeth, that's a habit. You don't think about that, right?
Yeah.
Like even the way that you roll out of bed to turn off your alarm clock, you really don't think about those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, what were your thoughts on how to break a habit? Because like you told me earlier, you started running again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we talked about your running last time.
Right.
So I want to know, how do you maintain that habit, right? Like, because you went from walking
Yeah.
to running. Am I correct? Right? Like you weren't always a runner. Were you a runner in high school?
Well, I ran track, but it wasn't nothing I took serious or anything like that.
But you ran track? You didn't run long distance running?
No.
Right.
No long distance sprinter.
So you told me you're running a 5K.
Yeah.
Right? So how did you break the habit of what type of running were you doing when you ran track?
Oh, I was doing 100-meter sprints. Just the sprints, nothing long distance. Always thought those guys doing the cross country were a little bit like, why are you running that long for?
So yeah, like you formed a new habit by overriding that habit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how'd you do that?
Well, I looked at myself and decided what I wanted to do, health-wise, mental-wise. I was like, I can sit here and just keep running sprints, or I can just take it to the distance, and I try to put that in my life too, because life ain't just a sprint.
Right.
It's a long-distance run, and you're going to stop plenty of times. But you got to keep up the pace, at least be consistent with what you're doing. So, the way you break a habit is get another good habit, if you, so to speak, but make it consistent.
Right.
You just can't say, hey, I'm going to the gym today, and then I'll go back for 2 months, because then you did nothing.
Right.
Consistency is what keeps a good habit.
Yeah.
And also consistency is what keeps bad habits. And we all know that habits are hard to break.
Right. And so the 3 R's, just to talk about it the right way, I looked it up, is reminder, the trigger that initiates the behavior; routine, the behavior itself, the action you take; and the reward, the benefit you gain from doing that behavior.
Right.
So, you were talking about your routine.
Yeah.
And what is the reward that you're getting for running to you?
To me, man, it may sound kind of self-centered, but I mean, I get to look at myself in the mirror and be like, damn, I look good for being almost 40.
Hey,
you know,
that's a good reward.
you know, and also look at the longevity of my people before me. You know, my dad lived till he's 90.
Right.
It's like I could do that too. This is how you get there. You know. And then I look around and I see people we grew up with in high school with. And I'm just like, y'all look like old men. I'm glad I don't look like an old man.
Right.
You know, so that's my reward. You know.
Yeah.
Like I said, it may sound self-centered, but hey, that's my reward.
No, man. But like, I think that's a good thing to think about, right? Like we always think about the finish. Let's say you were trying to run to lose weight, right? Like you were trying to lose 10 pounds. We think about that 10 pounds, but just knowing that you look better, right? Like saying that you could look in the mirror every day. I know after I get out and walk, I feel accomplished.
Yeah.
Right? It's something I could check off my list. Like I have a list of things, and that is my reward.
Mm-hmm.
Finishing my routine for the day.
Yeah. That's what I was just about to say. Sometimes I think your reward specifically for the walking, your reward is the routine.
Right.
I did it again today.
Yeah.
Because you talked about in a previous podcast about how some days you don't feel like doing it
At all.
But when you go out and do it, you go back home, you look yourself in the mirror and say, I did it again.
Yeah.
My reward is my routine.
Right.
And I think that the reward, which is not actually a reward that people get, is complacency.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And that's why I was talking about fears, because I think people are naturally scared. They get to a point and they, you know what? I've done enough, or I've come too far. And I'm starting to see that with my peers, or even certain people I follow on social media for motivation.
Yeah.
Like, why not go to another level, right? You shouldn't stay at a certain level for too long. Once you reach that, expand, scale.
It's a fear of success.
Right.
And I combat that myself, as I have a fear of complacency, what you just said. I have a fear of complacency, a fear of mediocrity.
Right.
So when I see myself getting complacent, getting a routine that's not rewarding, or getting to being quote unquote mediocre, I know then that's when it's my time to move on and do something else, do something different, or do something better.
Like I've been reaching out to people in DMs to try to get them to come on a podcast and shed a different light, give a different voice that people may connect with, right? And I had to come up with a script to, just, hey, I'm Uplifting from Keep It Uplifting podcast, blah, blah, blah. But, I also had to do research.
Yeah.
Right? But reaching out to people's uncomfortable for me. I'm an introvert. Like, I love people who come and say, hey, I would love to be on your podcast. That's easy. But the trick, what I felt is when I don't want to do something, I instantly go to procrastinating by thinking about something else.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah.
And I think we don't pay attention to those triggers enough, right? Yeah. Like, there are certain triggers in your mind that will go, like, that are in your subconscious that will keep you from being successful.
Yeah.
And I think we need to pay attention to those cues so that we can get out of that routine, so that we can get rewarded with better results.
Mm.
Yeah, it takes for my own experience, it takes a while to get your mind out of it, because like I said, like I try to run daily, or at least 4 times a week. There's been plenty of times I woke up, stood outside, I'm like it's gonna rain. I shouldn't run today.
Yeah, right.
Bro. And it's like, it's not supposed to rain today. It just looks like it's gonna rain.
Right.
So I get out there and do it anyway. Or
yeah.
Like, it's kind of hot out here. Maybe I should just stay in today. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't know what it is with our minds, but our minds do mess us up.
Yeah.
And the natural with fear, I think that comes from childhood. Just being told you can't do this or you can't do that. It carries over into your adulthood. So.
Right. But you were talking about earlier, we were talking about breaking habits. Mm-hmm. And, I just had a newborn, and she's not going to get her passy at some point.
Right.
Like, expound on how breaking a habit of a child is similar to breaking a bad habits as adults.
Well, most people don't look at their children as to be adults. They look at them as children.
Right.
So you give your kid the pacifier. Eventually, you got to take it away.
Right.
So you got to break that habit. It hurts your soul, hurts your heart because they're crying. Then maybe you want to give it back to them.
Right.
So as they get older and older, I'm sure we've all heard the saying, just let them be kids. They're just kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
basically, like, don't hold them accountable for their actions.
Right.
Just let them be kids.
Yeah.
Right.
And then when they become like 15 or 16 years old, now you're trying to hold this person accountable for their actions, but they've had 15 or 16 years of doing whatever they want. That's a habit to break.
Right.
And it's hard to break a habit of not being held accountable. So now my teenager's out of control. Like, well, you let them be out of control from the age of 3 till now.
Yeah.
That's a habit they have developed. Now you're trying to break it when they're about to get into adulthood. You just messed up the whole world. Because now you got a kid who doesn't listen, who doesn't take corrective criticism.
Yeah.
Who doesn't know how to accept their wrongdoing and their own action because you just kept letting them be kids.
Yeah.
And that's a habit.
Right.
So how hard is that habit to break? And then that habit goes into our adulthood.
Yes.
Right.
Where it was like, hey, I ain't never listened to my mom. You think I'm listening to my boss?
True.
Right. Right.
True.
Right.
We see it all the time.
And now this person gets to play victim their whole life instead of being held accountable for their actions. Then when someone does, then you're the problem when you hold them accountable for their actions, for their habits they have been allowed to develop.
Yes, right. So I think to make it short, we have to nip bad habits in the bud before they become behaviors.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because that's what we're talking about when we talk about kids towards teenagership is a behavioral issue because we let them continue with bad habits.
Well,
right?
what I think, and I think it's great that you said that, is we have to take the pacifier away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whether you're kicking and screaming or not,
right?
You still got to do it because it's going to make you more accountable and it's going to make you better.
Yes.
Because the only way to break a bad habit is to override it with a good habit. Am I right?
Yeah.
Keep it uplifting.